Well, that's why people always do the but.
Yeah.
You know, so you tell someone, hey, these would be great things for you to implement into your day to day for health purposes, but then they say, yeah, but I got a 9 to 5,
Right.
but I
I
have
got all
kids,
this.
but
Yeah.
I got, and it actually makes sense. Like they do have those things, and they got to figure out how to kind of be able to
Right.
blend the two together.
Well, it always cracks me up that people that have back pain or shoulder pain, and they're like, you give them 3 exercises, like, well, I wasn't like, they get comfortable being in pain. They'd rather just stay in pain than spend 15 minutes doing 2 exercises.
Yeah, you still have to lay down on the ground and breathe for 2.5 minutes. Like, okay,
do that.
and then this other movement,
that,
this other
some calf
movement. I don't
raises,
think I have
that's it.
time for that. But you just said your back hurt for 15 years.
Yeah, right. Or the best is like, my back's hurt for 15 years and you didn't fix it in 2 minutes. It's you. It's not me. And I'm like, bro, like it takes time. You've done thousands of reps one way, and the body wants to be. It knows that it can survive in pain, but it knows it can survive like that. It's very easy to just be passive about the exercises you're doing, versus trying to continuously fine-tune the craft of running or bench press or back squat. Like people think that, a simple exercise should not be explored more, right? So once the brain and the body develops enough skill, you could passively do the exercise. You could bench press and be thinking about taxes and work and everything else you have going on in life. Then you're not bench pressing.
Right.
You're passively doing an exercise hoping for results versus actively chasing the contraction of the pec. And that's what we're talking about, maintaining the tension of the pec and the right range of motion for you today, not the right range of motion for the competition in a year and 6 weeks or whatever. It's the right range of motion for you today.
Right.
Because right now you're not getting a medal, you're not getting paid. It's about you. And so people forget that a lot, and they're like, just give me the program that's going to gear the results.
I'm getting paid.
This is cha-ching.
All right, remember the breathing? So try to, if you want to, you can go past that. When you feel the maximum output, you rack it.
Oh, okay.
Or you can go to the failing point just so we can all, and the
was
camera
so
can
weird.
catch you with that type moment. So you get to decide, right?
So. You throw off the breath.
Powerful. So you saw the first 2 were good. The third one, he lost power output, and you could see the jolt, and the third one was completely displaced. So
Displaced, what's that? What do you mean?
the displacement of tension. So the first one was great. The chest was engaged. You guys can go back on the film and look at it. The second one was very powerful. The third one, he lost power output on the eccentric, and you could see it was the left side caved in a little bit, so the elbow popped in. So now it goes to side delt instead of pecs and lats, and that's when he went, and he lost it. The body's like, bro, this is gonna hurt us. And on the third one, he displaced completely and went to the traps. He rolled forward, so the pecs turned off completely, and he pressed through the supraspinatus, not through the pec major. And so you can see that, like if I can hear it, I can more than likely tell you where he's displacing the tension, or at least what state he is and how he's moving.
Shouldn't Graham get an award for not utilizing his pecs on the bench press?
I mean, it's impressive, isn't it? Good job, Graham. But the first one was good.
Strongest rear delt press you've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly.
But the
That's what
best
I'm
part
saying.
of it is you see him come out and he's not winded, and I get it's 4 reps, but it's pretty high output for you,
Yeah, it
right?
feels very engaged.
And now it's starting to work. So the next thing that you could do is, so we get back on. And so again, moving to his end range of motion, not moving for what we should see as a bench press. So you're gonna go, listen to the inhale on the way down. And back up. That's his range of motion with 35 pounds. Anything
Say that
past
again.
that?
Why is that his range of motion again?
So come back up. Yeah, so come back up. So that's his range. So the inhale will always allow you to dictate the mobility of the muscles you're looking for. So when he's inhaling, that's the beauty of the body when you use it correctly. If I inhale, I'm only going to be able to go with my inhale and the chest engaged as far as the pec can stay engaged, if I know that's what I'm looking for.
Body's trying to stay safe, or
Starting-
what's
exactly.
okay.
So if we can move within a safe range, then there's no reason to hurt your shoulder. There's no reason for inflammation, or there's no need to displace the tension.
So to go further beyond that, we have to do what? Give up positions, or
You give up tension. You're giving up tension to go for the position, and that's the problem why everybody says bench press is wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a great idea.
Because for him, the tension that he has is here. But if you were to go to any gym, or if you were to start to work with a personal trainer, what would they say? go all the way down to the chest, because that's what we do at competition, or that's what it's supposed to gear the result.
But that's not going to gear the result. That's going to gear the result of the supraspinatus, the mid-trap, over-engaging, getting inflamed, and causing discomfort in the shoulders.
So the key is he needs to move for his end range of motion for today. And so we can use breathing as a tool. You use the inhale to find the end range of motion. You can add a little bit more range of motion if he exhales through the pursed lip. So if you were to exhale, he'll get a little bit more range of motion, not much more, and he can continuously move. So that's like the overloading of the muscles, if you will, get a higher contraction and actually start to get a nice pec pump rather than just doing bench press, not feeling the pecs, and then having shoulder pain. So go again, and I want you to inhale down, exhale up. And so when you look at it, there, and back up. Again, there. Go past the end range. See how now he's getting a nice, the pecs are working. He's starting to loose a little bit on the left. And so now you can see he's starting to loose it a little bit on the eccentric on the right side and on the pressing on the left. And
Do you
relax.
think this is maybe why some people are proponents of like partial reps, just because it's like an easier thing to coach, it's an easier thing to like load without as much danger?
It's about understanding the history. That's exactly why they do it. So it cracks me up, because when you look at the history, so when you look at pumping iron, and it's the Hulk. What was the guy's name?
Oh yeah, Lou Ferrigno.
Lou Ferrigno, and he's pressing here, and coming, the CrossFitters and everywhere is like, oh, partial reps.
Yeah, right.
You have to understand what you're trying to get out of the movement.
Yeah, he's saying Arnold, that one. Yeah.
Right. So he's
Staying here, because that's where he has the engagement of the teres major, a little bit of supraspinatus as he wanted to build in the front delt.
So that's what he was trying to build. So that's why people go partial range of motion. The problem comes in is that we've been told that everybody should have this active range of motion. It doesn't mean that you have it right now. So the key is, if we can stay in the right tension, there's no reason for inflammation and discomfort or displacement of tension in order to get the position. We've been coached and been told that we need to get to the position to gear the result.
And there's not always a relationship between pain and tightness.
Well, the pain is coming from inflammation and it's intensity signals. So if you ever notice the pain, you never have pain in your
But there's
chest.
some people that don't move well that don't have pain, right?
And that could be a disconnect of the body. So that's because, how do you kill a frog? You put it in lukewarm water and you leave it there till it boils to death. That's your body. Because imagine having to be in that pain or discomfort continuously. It's gonna be horrible. So the body goes, well, if we're gonna have to keep enduring this, what do? We start shutting off the neural output to the muscles so you feel less pain. You get used to it.
Lay down different tissue, build a bone there, like
Yeah, bone
calcify,
spurs,
right,
everything else. And so the problem is you're being taught the positions to gear the results rather than the tension of the muscles to gear the results. At the end of the day, you need high neural output of the bigger muscles in order to get muscle quality and quantity, in order to develop the skills that you're trying to do. Now everybody's teaching the skills that you need to do in order to have the bigger muscles. They're going at it backwards. So that's where you start to have people that have a lot of discomfort and everything else, and that can lead to the emotional and the behavioral cycles and the mental anxiety that people have of the gym. But it's because they've been taught incorrectly. But the pain is, like, have you ever been painfully sore in the pec without a tear? Yeah. Is it sore, or is it just feels like it's been worked?
Yeah. Where does the pain come in? The side delt, the supraspinatus, where the trap starts to feel heavy.
High in the neck. They're all very afferent muscles. In the scapula, right? The rhomboids, lower traps, mid traps.
Yeah, I've had stuff like that happen, and you're like, why does that hurt?
Right.
Wasn't even involved in the workout, right?
Supposedly, yeah.
Right.
But, and how do you fix it? Because you can't contract it at will. Can you contract your pec minor at will?
It would be hard, yeah.
Yeah,
To only
right?
to contract that.
Yeah, the supraspinatus, the serratus, you don't contract those muscles at will. They're reactive muscles that have much more afferent muscle fibers, so they create a lot more intensity because they're trying to tell you that you're moving incorrectly. And what do? We go see professionals or specialists, and they shut off the signals of intensity through the trigger point or through like hard isometrics, where it forces massive amount of blood flow into it to release it.
It's like an afferent muscle will probably flex or contract when it's stressed really hard.
Exactly.
Like if you're throwing a baseball or something.
Over
You're not
and over
try-
and
You're
over
not
again.
trying
But-
to flex that muscle, but it's
Right, but
coming
it's,
into play.
and nobody asks, well, why is throwing a baseball hurting the shoulder? They just say, throwing a baseball thousands of reps is going to hurt the shoulder. Nobody's paying attention to, is the pec strong enough, or do the lats have mobility to rotate and throw? Do they have the right amount of obliques on both sides, like the right neural output? Because what happens is you're only throwing with one hand. So what does that mean? You're only using one oblique to break. You're using the other oblique, so the same side oblique that they throw the baseball with would be a flexion and extension because the fascia is more reactive and you want to throw harder. So what do they do when they go see the specialists? They keep doing and working a stronger oblique on one side and a weaker oblique on the other because they never work it. So then the issue comes in is they go, okay, so you have shoulder pain. But it's not because the shoulder isn't working properly, it's because the oblique is weak. So you're having to compensate from the larger structural muscle to the more specialized muscles. So if we strengthen the oblique, the shoulder can sit down more, we can actually develop the pecs and the lats that we need, and now you can throw a ball without having shoulder pain. Because now the body doesn't feel at risk when it's doing the movement. Again, the body is just trying to take action on what it's observing. And so if you start to get hurt, the body's going to go, hey, every time we come here, we're getting hurt at an acute level. But over thousands of reps, that acute level becomes chronic, and that's when you have an issue. And then rather than treating the root cause of a weak oblique, they keep doing trigger point therapy, dry needling, all of these passive things to help the shoulder feel better, not get stronger. And then at the end, you'll end up having the guys that are doing the surgery at the elbow or doing the surgery in the shoulders, and they go, oh, well, it's part of the sport. It shouldn't have to be part of the sport. You just have to get to the root cause, strengthen the body correctly and as equally as possible, or strengthen the weaker parts, and then you can do the sport-specific movement without having pain and probably perform it better.
And it might be a little tricky to figure out how to strengthen it in particular.
It's not that
you
difficult.
Do you just train it away with weights?
Yeah, so it's essentially having to understand the fundamentals of what the movement requires, what the exercise requires, right? So it's about not just looking at, as a baseball thrower, like not just looking at what are the mechanics of the joints having to do, but what is as a bigger structural view, as a macro view, what are the muscles that are working and not working? And why don't we strengthen the ones that are not firing correctly or don't have the neural output? And so it makes sense that if I'm throwing a baseball, I'm only rotating one way. When I do my strength training or my strength and conditioning, they have me rotate only one way. So for me, it would be like a simple conclusion that if I'm only rotating one way, I should probably learn to rotate the other way. And if I can rotate the other way, the body as a whole feels more confident to rotate, therefore I can actually produce more power. Right? And so then the other thing would be like the psoas major would start to turn off as well. So you start to go to the iliacus. And so again, it's a trickle down effect of not looking at the tension that the human is making, but expecting the positions that they get in to gear the results. And that's where we can start to make a big difference, and using breathing as a tool to allow you to find your mobility, the proper range of motion that you have today in the movement, and then using the exhaling as a way to take action on it to actually get the muscles to feel higher neural output, which will give it better muscle quality, less inflammation in the smaller, more afferent muscles. Then we can actually start to build a proper bench press exercise skill, because at the end of the day, the better the tension, the higher you can perform. Right? Like, how good can you perform if one of the glutes isn't working on a back squat? You're going to have an issue. You're going to hit a ceiling very quickly and you're going to break. And you see that over and over again. And so it's not necessarily how the muscle looks, it's the quality of the muscle and the neural capacity, the capacity for it to maintain tension through its range of motion.
Can you demonstrate how you would like to see us breathe on this, and I'll do a set after you?
Yeah, so if you're looking for mobility of a press, again, if I'm looking at a bench press, we're going to be looking at the engagement of psoas major, glute max, inside hamstrings, transverse abdominis, external obliques to break as we go down, because it's still rotation and stabilization. The sternocostal pecs, the lower pecs, teres major. So,
yeah, always watch your head with that. Yeah, I know, this thing will brain you every once in a while.
So, if I can get myself here and I can feel my pecs. So now that I know how to engage my pecs, then I can inhale down. So that inhale down allows me to see the range of motion in my pecs. If I wanted to take more action or add a little bit of extra range, I can exhale down And what that breathing is going to do is going to vasoconstrict the blood vessels, and it's actually going to give you a nice pump in the pecs. So the goal for your bench press is to have a pec pump. That's what I would do, is I would start with the inhale down. And what I'm doing there is I'm using the movement to dictate, the breath to dictate the movement, right? And so if you wanted to do this like a max out set, you can start with the inhale, exhale, then I would go to longer exhales, and then I would finish with the grunts, because that's gonna allow the body to stay in a fight mode. It's gonna bring down the mental stress, and it's gonna bring up the sympathetic response and allow you to take pure action without the mental stress.
So this kind of breathing is a little bit more for range of motion, to try to test out that range of motion and to try to get as much range as you can.
Right, yeah, and then if you wanted to go to like pure action, so if you're doing like a powerlifting competition, or like I like to do.
Let's do one at a time. I'll do that one, and then we'll switch and we'll demonstrate the other one. That way everyone's not getting too confused. But probably a good 10 years ago or so, Ed Cohn came into the gym and he was showing me some stuff with squats and deadlifts and stuff. And you know, Ed he's a shorter guy. He's got long ass arms and giant hands. His hands are literally probably like that long, you know. It's wild. And so he's showing me like this setup for sumo, and he's like, and then boop, and then you're right there.
Yeah.
And he was
like,
right
wait
there.
a second,
Like
yeah.
he's actually grabbing the bar. But anyway, he had me kind of open my stance up a little bit. He's like, you're a taller guy, so you're gonna have to do different things. And so we got into a position here, and he was like, okay, now just breathe, you know. So I went. He's like, breathe again. And I just kind of kept doing a little bit what you're talking about right there, just trying to relax. And
right. And he's a great philosopher. Like if you listen to him talk about the back squat, he's telling you how to back squat correctly without getting in pain, but nobody was able to take that philosophy and apply it, because they were always looking at the position. But he says when you squat, you should feel, or you should spread the taint. And that's essentially internal tension, because that allows you to use the hamstrings and the glutes as you go down, and then come back up and then switch. And so like some of the older guys, like if you can listen to the philosophy and then apply the new science, if you will, right? Like the anatomy and the physiology of it, it all makes sense. It's beautiful.
Yeah, people sometimes have a hard time like digesting or taking in the information, because they see the weight on the bar from the individual, right. And then so that person wants to lift real heavy.
Right.
And it's like, maybe it's better, like maybe we should learn stuff when there's less weight on the bar, especially when you're learning.
Yeah.
Like have a lot less weight on the bar. And then also Ed Cohn, his squat form, you know, Ed was a guy who, he didn't use his quads a lot. Okay. And he would, he kind of had this like medium stance, but he would bend forward a lot. Right. And he was able to just squat like crazy like that. Yeah. And so that's what people kind of, they watch that and they're like, oh, I need to try that. Yeah. Right. And it's like that positioning, you know, it's probably like 50-50 on whether it's going to work for you or not, you know. So get the pecs engaged first.
Yep. So think like you're doing like a pec fly. You feel the pecs, then you'll listen to the inhale. So you inhale on the eccentric. Yep. And up. So listen, go, inhale through your nose.
Oh, inhale through
It's
the
not
nose.
heavy for you. Just breathe. It's a flowing exercise. There and up. There. Nice and slow. Find the range of motion. And now think about 2 to 3 reps through constant exhale of the pursed lips.
Through constant exhale.
So don't rest at the top or the bottom. You're going to keep moving. You're going to keep breathing constantly. So long, long exhale. So think 2 reps, 1 exhale. The skill. So breathing and moving is also a skill. So that's why you probably want to start a little bit lighter. So think of, see how you're stopping at the bottom, stopping at the top?
Yeah.
I want constant tension. The primary function of the pec is eccentric and isometric contractions. It's staying constantly engaged. So have a flow, right? Like you're not going to...
You wanted me to exhale what, on the way up?
So I want you to think about inhale. And then once you find the range of motion and you have the proprioception of where you're moving, then it's going to be a...
Ah, okay.
So we're always moving, we're always breathing. It's like love making. There. That's it. Flow, flow, flow. It's nice and light. Find the flow. That's it. Breathing, breathing, breathing. There, a couple more reps. And relax.
That feels pretty interesting. What is that doing to the muscles and stuff? Like, is that changing?
We're actually using the pecs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Using them a little bit more.
A lot more.
Because they're starved of oxygen, or are we changing the CO2 to oxygen ratio?
So you're allowing the brain to have less stress and the stress to go into the muscle. So remember I was talking about passive and active? You're actively using the pecs in the movement. It's vasoconstricting the blood vessels and allowing you to have a harder contraction of the pecs.
Is it anything similar to, like, I utilize breathing when I go into my cold plunge, and the breathing that I do is kind of a Wim Hof type thing. It's a little bit, what you're describing there, a little bit more emphasis on the exhale, and when I'm in the water, I'm a lot more calm through that breathing. Yeah,
so the inhale allows you to be hypervigilant. So if you ever try and do and hold your breath, you'll notice heart rate starts to go up, mental stress starts to go up, because the body's like, it's embracing for stress, whatever it may be. And when you exhale, it's a down regulator. It allows you to stay calm. So it takes a lot of the mental stress away. When you're doing it in movement, it allows you to stay understanding that there's stress, but the stress doesn't go to the brain, it goes to the muscle. And so you notice how you got mentally calm once you started to flow, where before you were like, you're trying to be very hypervigilant and you're trying to follow steps. This started to feel a lot more flow. You started to actually oscillate. You could see the muscles just started to move a lot nicer. And then towards the end, I took you off because you started to shift a little bit. So then that's where we would start to see a little bit more displacement of tension, because you started to go on a more reactive exercise. So I could see the brain, like your mind kind of started to shift away. And so that's why I took it off, because then we would start to see a little bit of the elbow start to pinch in a little bit.
And you start to do that for too many sets and too many reps over time.
It's going to start
be
to
a little bit of a negative.
Turn off, yeah.
Nsima, do you want to try this at all?